Welcome to Brainish English Stories.
After we ate dinner, we chatted about exciting stories and accidents while hunting. An old friend we all knew, Mr. Boniface, who loved sports and wine and had a great sense of humor, shared a story. I have a story that's different from the usual ones. It's not a happy story, but I've never shared it because I didn't think anyone would be interested. It's about when I was around 35 and loved hunting. I had a small place near Jumiages, surrounded by forests full of hares and rabbits. I used to spend 4 or 5 days there alone each year because there wasn't enough space to bring a friend. I had an old retired gendarme, Mr. Cavalier, as my gamekeeper. He was strict and tough on poachers. He lived in a small house with his nephew, a young boy who helped him with errands. This young troublemaker was tall and skinny, with light yellow hair that looked like the fluff of a plucked chicken. He had big feet and hands like a giant. He had a lazy eye and never looked at anyone. He seemed as unpleasant as stinky animals are to other animals. He reminded me of a skunk. He slept in a little space at the top of the stairs that led to the 2 rooms. But when I stayed at the hut for a short time, Marius would give up his spot to an old lady named Celeste from Courcheville, who cooked for me because Mr. Cavalier's cooking wasn't enough for my big appetite. Now you know the people and the place. Here's the story. It was October 15, 1854. I'll never forget that date. I rode my horse from Rouen with my dog Bach, a big Dalmatian hound, by my side. Bach could find things in the bushes like a spaniel. I had my bag on my back and my gun slung across my chest. It was a cold, windy, and dark day with clouds moving fast across the sky. As I went up the hill at Canteleu, I looked at the wide Seine River valley. Rouen's towers were on the right, and on the left, there were hills covered with trees. Then I crossed the forest of Ramare and got to the pavilion around 5 o'clock, where Mr. Cavalier and Celeste were waiting for me. For 10 years, I came there at the same time, in the same way, and for 10 years, I got the same greetings from the same faces. "Welcome, boss. Are you feeling good?" Mr. Cavalier hardly changed. He stayed strong like an old tree, but Celeste, especially in the last 4 years, looked very different. She was bent almost in half, and though still active, she walked with her body almost perpendicular to her legs. The old lady, who cared a lot for me, always seemed emotional when she saw me again. Every time I left, she'd say, "This might be the last time, boss." Her sad, quiet goodbye, her acceptance of what was coming for her soon, always touched me. I got off my horse, and while Mr. Cavalier took my horse to the small shed for horses, I went into the kitchen, where Celeste followed me. The gamekeeper joined us, but I could tell something was wrong. He looked worried and uneasy. I asked him, "Everything okay, Mr. Cavalier?" He mumbled, "Yes and no. There are things bothering me." I asked, "What's wrong? Tell me about it." But he just shook his head. "No, not yet, sir. I don't want to trouble you with my little problems right after you arrived." I kept asking, but he refused to tell me anything until after dinner. He looked very serious, so I knew it was something important. Not knowing what else to say, I asked, "Are there many animals to hunt this year?" "Oh yes. You'll find plenty." Thank goodness, I took care of that. He said this very seriously, but it almost seemed funny. His big gray mustache looked like it might fall off. Then I remembered I hadn't seen his nephew yet. "Where's Marius? Why hasn't he come out?" The gamekeeper seemed surprised and looked at me. Well, sir, I wanted to tell you everything first. I'm worried because of him. Oh. Where is he? In the stables, sir. I was waiting for the right time to bring him out. What did he do? Well, sir. But the gamekeeper hesitated, his voice trembling, and his face showed worry lines like an old man. He slowly continued. Last winter, I found out someone was hunting illegally in the Roserays woods, but I couldn't catch them. I spent many nights trying. Then they started hunting near Courchevel. I was getting very upset. But catching the poacher seemed impossible. It was like the scoundrel knew my plans beforehand. But one day, while I was cleaning Marius' good pants, I found 40 cents in his pocket. Where did he get it? I thought about it for about a week, and I noticed he'd go out late at night when I was coming home to sleep. Yes, sir. So, I started watching him without suspecting anything. One morning, just after I went to bed, I got back up and followed him. When it comes to following someone, I'm good at it, sir. And I caught him, Marius, hunting on your land, sir. He's my nephew, and I'm your gamekeeper. I got so angry, I nearly hit him so hard he'd never forget it. Oh yes, I gave him a good beating. And I warned him he'd get another one from me, in front of you, as an example. There. I've been so upset about it. You know how it is when you're worried like that. But tell me, what would you have done? The boy has no parents, and I'm the only family he has left. I couldn't just kick him out, could I? I told him if he did it again, I wouldn't show him any mercy. That would be it. Did I do the right thing, sir? I replied, reaching out my hand. You did the right thing, Mr. Cavalier. You're a good man. He stood up. Thank you, sir. Now I'm going to get him. I have to give him his punishment to teach him a lesson. I knew I couldn't change his mind, so I let him do what he thought was best. He grabbed the boy by the ear and brought him back. I sat on a chair made of cane, looking serious like a judge. Marius looked even uglier than last year, with his sneaky face. His big hands looked huge. His uncle pushed him toward me and said in a firm voice, "Apologize to the gentleman." The boy didn't say anything. Then his uncle grabbed him and started hitting him so hard that I stood up to stop him. The boy started crying, begging for mercy. Please. Please. I promise. Mr. Cavalier put him down and made him kneel. Apologize, he said. With his eyes down, the boy mumbled, I'm sorry. Then his uncle made him stand up and gave him a slap that almost knocked him down again. The boy ran off, and I didn't see him for the rest of the evening. Mr. Cavalier looked very upset. He's a troublemaker, he said. And he kept saying throughout dinner, Oh. That worries me, sir, that worries me. I tried to make him feel better, but it didn't work. I went to bed early so I could start early in the morning. My dog was already asleep at the end of my bed when I turned off the light. I woke up around midnight because my dog Bach was barking loudly. I saw that my room was filled with smoke. I got out of bed, lit a candle, and ran to the door. When I opened it, flames burst in. The house was on fire. I quickly closed the door and put on my pants. First, I lowered my dog out of the window using a rope I made from my sheets. Then I threw out my clothes, hunting bag, and gun, and climbed out the window too. I shouted as loud as I could, Mr. Cavalier. Mr. Cavalier. But he didn't wake up. He was sleeping like a log. I saw through the windows that the ground floor was all on fire. It looked like someone put straw there to make it burn faster. I kept yelling, "Mr. Cavalier!" Then I worried the smoke might be making him sick. So, I had an idea. I loaded my gun with 2 bullets and shot at his window. The glass broke and made a loud noise. This time he heard me. He came to the window in his nightshirt, confused by the bright firelight. I shouted to him, "Your house is on fire. Get out through the window. Hurry!" The flames were coming out from under the door downstairs, crawling up the wall toward him. He jumped out and landed on his feet like a cat. It was just in time. The roof started cracking over the staircase, where the fire was making its way up from downstairs. A big burst of fire shot up into the sky, sending sparks flying around the hut. In a few moments it was all flames. "Mr. Cavalier," shocked asked, "how did the fire start?" I said, "Someone started it in the kitchen." He muttered, "Who could have done it?" And I realized suddenly and said, "Marius." The old man understood. He said, "Good Lord. That's why he didn't come back." A terrible thought crossed my mind. I yelled, "And Celeste? Celeste?" He didn't answer. The house collapsed in front of us, turning into a huge, bright fire, like a big, scary funeral pyre. Poor Celeste would be nothing but a glowing ember, burning up in the fire. We didn't hear any screams. As the fire got closer to the stable, I remembered my horse, and Mr. Cavalier ran to let it out. As soon as he opened the door, Marius rushed past him and knocked him down. The man got up quickly. He tried to chase after Marius, but he couldn't catch him. He was so angry that he didn't think clearly. He grabbed my gun, which was lying nearby, and without checking if it was loaded, he pointed it and pulled the trigger. One of the bullets I had put in to signal the fire was still there, and it hit Marius in the back. He fell to the ground, bleeding a lot. He tried to crawl away, like a rabbit trying to escape a hunter after being wounded. I ran to Marius, but he was already dying. He passed away before the fire was put out, without saying anything. Mr. Cavalier, still in his nightshirt with bare legs, stood there, shocked and still. When people from the village came, they took my gamekeeper away, thinking he was crazy. I went to the trial as a witness and told everything exactly as it happened. Mr. Cavalier was found innocent. He left the area that same day and I never saw him again. So, gentlemen, that's my story.